Hey, thank you for joining the Photo Flunky Show, episode number 53. We're talking about travel photography today, and more specifically, we're talking about the different styles you can use while you're taking your travel photos. Stick around with us. I think it's funny that I say stick around. It's like the show just started. I mean, who's going to turn me off right away?
Oh, I don't know. That's kind of scary, isn't it?
There's probably someone who did, just because. But for those of you that stuck around, hi, my name is William Beem.
And hi, my name is Lee Beem, and we're glad you're here.
And we're absolutely glad you're here. We appreciate you. And before we get started, we'll let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 53. And as always, you can find a transcript of the show there for free. You want to subscribe, and we recommend that you do because that just makes it easy for this to come straight to your device. Go to photoflunky.com and you'll find links there to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, and probably a few other things I've forgotten about. And finally, social media. We're out there. We're alive. There are links on our show notes, and of course, we'll have them on the website. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.
Yes.
And even YouTube. I got to put my YouTube channel up there.
You should put your YouTube channel up there because you're putting some nice tutorials up there as well.
I'm going to be putting a few more things on YouTube lately. I'm going to be kind of switching things around, but we're not going to talk about that today. Today, we're going to talk about travel photography and the different styles that people have. So really what it comes down to when we're talking about photography styles, particularly with travel, is kind of how you approach the photographs that you want to take. And we're all going to go out there and take our snapshots.
Yes.
I think that's a given. Even if you're just taking an iPhone, you're going to get your snapshots because you want your memories like that. But if you want to come back with something unique or something that is someone looks at and says, oh, I know who took that. That style belongs to William. That style belongs to Lee.
Yes. Then
that's where your style kind of comes in. And it's really kind of basically, what are your preferences in photography?
Yeah.
Lee, one of yours I know is you like your detail shots.
I do. I really do like my detail shots.
But why is that?
It's kind of hard to define. It's something that I've always enjoyed. But I think if I had to put an overview on to try and explain it, my passion for the details is that you can eliminate anything that is irrelevant to the story. And by zooming in, you can focus on the message that you want or the little details that you want. And a lot of the things that I do are photos that are taken maybe because whatever my subject is almost out of context with the surroundings. You can have an in-context photo by sort of zooming in and getting the detail, but you can also take the bigger picture and have the contrast of, well, this kind of doesn't belong here, but that's why I like it.
Well, there are a lot of things that if you shoot, the scene that you see when you walk in, you kind of miss the details.
Yes.
You get up close and you show those to somebody and someone's going to say, oh, wow, where did you find that? And I remember one thing that you pointed out was on the roof at the House of Blues in Orlando, there are shoes nailed up there.
Yes.
No one really probably notices those except for people like you.
I
got to say people like you very carefully because...
No, I know what I take that as a compliment because when I take photos, I look up and I look down. I try and look at almost any other perspective other than just walking through because I kind of figure everybody else is doing that. So they've got it covered. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to look up and look down, and I'm always looking around to see what's there.
Here's the way I look at it. If you were to do a photo essay of a trip through Orlando, you would come back with photos very different and unique from anyone else. I mean, you're not going to go out there with all the traditional shots.
No.
You're going to come out and say, I found this in this place in Orlando. I found this in this place. So you're going to have detailed shots. It all represents Orlando, but from a different point of view.
Yes, it does. And I think my thing is, it's not that I'm trying to be different. It's more that I'm trying not to be the same. And I don't see that as, to me, there's a difference between that. I'm not trying, it's not that I'm trying to stand out, but I'm very specifically trying not to blend in.
Okay, I get that. And also, you are into scrapbooking, so you like having those detailed shots as elements that you're going to put in your scrapbook.
I do, because if you take a big scene of, for example, a beach with people and umbrellas and that might work a little bit. But you get close up on an umbrella or an ice cream sundae with a stripy straw kind of into a shake behind it. And you kind of get like almost just cropped in as a portion of that with the good stuff on top, like the cherries and the soft serve ice cream and all the sprinkles and things. To me, that makes a much better background or an element inside a scrapbook than the busy scene of kind of everything where there's no real subject.
Well, that kind of brings me to the next one, is shooting for color or black and white. And the reason I say that brings me to it is I'm running into this problem where I'm making, post headers. I've got to put text on there to say what it's about. And it's not just for blog posts. It's also if I do a card for YouTube,
Yep.
if I want to put something on Twitter or Facebook, or, some kind of social media, I need to put text on it. But not every photo is really good for that.
No, you're right. And you saw me struggling with one just in the last week.
And I put something out on Instagram, was a photo, a black and white photo of my brother's band, from years ago when he was in his band. And everybody in the photo was wearing, kind of black and white clothing. They're in a bathroom. And you know what? It doesn't matter if you use white text or black text. Some of it's going to be unseen. It just doesn't blend in well. And any color we put on that just really seemed out of place too. So that photo doesn't work as a background. What I get out of shooting for color is I'm thinking not so much of just the one photo, but rather, I'm going to take an example of when I went to Cuba. One of the things that really struck me was the place was alive with color.
Yes.
It's not like driving in an American city. Even if in its dilapidated state, color was rampant in Cuba. And that was something that struck me. And I started shooting for color.
Yes.
And some of the shots I took were just, a street sign that was on a building, different colors. It stood out. It tells you where you are.
Cuba is not a black and white destination.
No, it's really not.
There are some places that are just not black and white destinations. Honestly, this is just personal preference and personal opinion. But to me, landscapes don't belong in black and white.
There are some people that look at them in black and white. I don't. I've seen like mountain ranges in black and white, and I understand why people are shooting for the tones and the changes in that. It doesn't really hit me that way. I'm looking at color and vibrant. But to me, a landscape is also, for the most part, a very busy scene.
Yes, it can be.
It certainly can be. It's like, if you've got a lot of clouds in the sky, if you've got like a perfect clear blue sky and a perfect grassy field, you've got a very simple photo. I don't know if it's an engaging photo. It's probably good for putting text on it. But I would shoot that for color and maybe use it as a background someplace. That almost reminds me of like the Windows XP. It had that, default photograph. It was taken in Palouse, California. It was just, rolling wavy grassy hills with a perfect blue sky.
Yes, everybody wanted that. I used to get so mad because everyone in the office just left it like that. I used to go around and change it when they went home.
And the truth is that place only looks like that for a few weeks out of the year. The rest of the time it's muddy brown fields.
See, I would have taken the muddy brown field just because.
Well, maybe muddy brown fields and then dry brown fields or fire. But that area, the photographer who took it lived there. He knew when to go take it and shoot it. And he got, I guess, the contract of a lifetime with Microsoft selecting it as a stock photo. It was perfect for what he needed to do. And he was shooting, for a very simple scene, very colorful and very peaceful.
Yes.
I think it's something you can keep in mind when you're shooting for travel is how does the location make you feel? And can you take a picture of something that passes on that feeling, whether it's through color or black and white, or even just the simplicity of a scene? Something else that I find with that is if I do need to use something of one of my photographs for a background, I take it now when I go travel someplace, I'm looking for very simple scenes with interesting colors that I know will work with text, either black or white. The good part of that is I'm thinking ahead, but it's also, is this my creative style? And you know what? It is my creative style for certain uses. And that's kind of what comes back. It's like, are you going to share this with friends? Are you going to have a gallery? Are you going to use it for Instagram and social media posts? All those kind of things are, what is your style? If you end up with a bunch of busy photos that says, hey, we were here, that's great for showing somebody saying that you were there. But it isn't necessarily something that is going to work for you if you need to use that image in a specific context.
It might not, but you see, that might actually be somebody's style. I was just thinking about it as you were speaking. Not everybody wants to use photos as backgrounds. Whether or not it's to my preference or your preference is almost irrelevant. I think people sometimes try too hard to find their own style. They get sort of like style focused and try and overthink everything. And really your style emerges when you start just relaxing and taking pictures of whatever you see. And you eventually you do figure out what you really like. And I think you naturally gravitate towards that specific thing or those specific things.
Well, I think you just said kind of what I said at the beginning is your style is about what you like.
Yes.
And you end up shooting more and more of what you like. So for example, you like taking photos of food.
I do.
If you went to another city, would you be able to take nothing but photos of food? Or would it be predominant of what you took?
It would be predominant of what I took, but put it this way. If you said to me, if I were going to another city and I had to be put on assignment and told this is all you're going to take, or pretty much all you're going to take, I would not have a problem with that, because that falls in line with where my passion is.
See, one of the things I would probably take as a challenge is, let's say you're told to visit 12 different cities.
Mm-hmm.
And for each city, you can have one photograph that represents the city, and that photograph must be of food.
Okay.
If you go to New York, if you go to Chicago, if you go to San Francisco, what really stands out? It's like, if Chicago, I think pizza.
Okay. See, I would do it a little bit differently. I'd probably find something that's like a long-standing restaurant. Like, for example, we were looking at that, what was that? Black Tap
Yes.
In New York. To me, that would be something worth taking a photo of. Not everybody knows about it. It doesn't scream New York, but as far as I know, there is only one venue, and that is in New York. So to me, it's like, it's the only one, that's where it is. So it almost, I'm not giving it away. I'm making you work to figure out how it fits.
I get that. And it's something that's unique to the city. And just kind of like the way, what is a year or two ago, the cronut was unique to the city.
Yeah.
And I guess technically it still is, even though everybody's ripped it off and copied it, even over at Epcot. But if you're going to approach a city and have a style and show, I guess, a gallery of different cities through food, in the Southwest, I'm looking for Tex-Mex. I'm looking for something specific like that. If I go to Texas, I'm going to be looking for barbecue.
Yeah.
Some places, I'm going to be looking for seafood.
Yes.
And it's just that kind of develops a style, and it makes a body of work rather than just, one. Each one can be a great photograph, but you put them together and you've got a body of work that you can show.
Yes.
So I kind of like that idea. It's not for everybody. It doesn't have to be food. You could do architecture in each city. You could do colors that you find in each city.
You could run through each city.
You could do people in each city.
Yes.
That's kind of another thing that we talked about is, you don't really like doing portraits, but yet when you go to a place, you want to get shots of the atmosphere.
I do.
And people are part of that.
Oh, absolutely. The people, most of the time, it's people who create the atmosphere. It's not just the lighting and the scene. And I do like to have people in my bigger shots, like in the theme parks or in a big city or in the city streets. And I'm not kind of zooming in on someone and trying to get a close up of them. I just want to get the general feel of the people and the energy.
Are you looking for people who are working and doing something with their hands, or are you looking for people as part of a place that you visited? How are you shooting people? That
depends. And generally, I just go for the people who are present, because to me, that's in that moment, that is what makes the atmosphere. They might not be there. You could have a completely different set moving in as the time of day changes, and the atmosphere will probably change as well with it. But right then, at that moment that I'm there, I want to capture the people I'm there. So yes, I don't really care. I do like working hands. I do like to kind of capture that sort of, something different or something very specific maybe to that area. If it was I used to go and visit the German markets as a tradition every Christmas with my family, and I used to go into Edinburgh and go and walk around the German market stalls. And capturing the people working there is a big part of it, because they really create the atmosphere. But the visitors there create the atmosphere too. And they are almost more colorful, because some of them look like they don't fit.
But to me, that kind of comes back to storytelling. And I've harped on this a lot as far as storytelling. But if I'm going to shoot people, the way I shoot them really depends upon how I encounter them. So if I find someone who's doing like glass work, for example, I want to concentrate on their hands or maybe what they're doing. Let's say that someone's got one of those long tubes and they're blowing glass. I'm going to do a bit of a wider shot, maybe get closer to their face where they're blowing, and then see the end of it back there. But if they're kind of cutting off whatever they're done, I want to get closer on their hands and the part where they're cutting it off. On the other hand, I've been off to markets, for example.
Yeah.
It could be anyone from selling fruit to selling fish. Those people, maybe I'll take some shots of them while they're shuffling the stuff around. But I kind of want to get a portrait of them, a bit more formal of them, kind of behind the counter with an apron on,
yes.
Maybe holding up a fish or whatever they've grown,
yes.
and say, this is me and this is what I do.
Yeah.
I like those shots as well, too.
Yes. And also I found that if you caption your shots, you can take the same photo and get completely different reactions.
Oh, that's true.
No, this is crazy. I was just thinking about the German market, but I went there the one day and I was standing waiting for something. There was a couple in front of me that were so sweet. They were kind of holding hands and hugging. And I don't know if somebody had a photo or something, but basically what they did was they both took out their cell phones and the one was sending it to the other, and they were almost giddy with excitement. So they were probably going to do something or share something. There was that brief moment where they were both standing and they weren't looking at each other. They were both down at their phones, and she was saying, has it come through yet? And I took a shot of them kind of, from like between the two of them from behind with my big zoom lens. And I posted that up on Google Plus, and I captioned it something to do with modern technology or something like that. I think that was the second time I put it up. I posted it twice. The first time I posted it, I posted something, sweet that kind of almost explained in a sentence the moment they were sharing. And a lot of people liked it. There was a lot of engagement on it and, nice words said. And then what I did was I hid it. And I reposted it with a different caption about the modern technology. I actually had to remove that post because people were so rude and insulting. It was just absolutely insane.
So you plant a little seed of an idea in their mind, and then that's how people react to the photo.
It's kind of funny to see. So be careful if you're going to caption. I tend not to caption my photos, but I just thought I'd throw it in there. You can suggest something, drag somebody down a path that is either accurate or not.
That's a good point. We were talking about photographing people kind of as they are. And I hate to keep going back to Cuba, but since I had such a wonderful visit there, I was on a trip with part of a Santa Fe workshops. Joe McNally was leading it. And he brought up something, said, okay, we've got this wonderful wall here. And it's a wonderful blue wall. And here's an older lady walking down with a yellow coat. He said, this is perfect color contrast. We're just going to stay here and wait. And as she comes by, then it's kind of like, the old saying, it's like, find a stage and the actors will come. Mm-hmm. Well, she was the actor. She was coming along. And as luck would have it, she came up by me first. And I was just waiting to take my shot. And she looks at me with this big, wonderful smile. And photo? I said, yes. I take her photo. And then that smile went away and her hand just thrust out, say, peso. I'm saying, what? She said, peso.
I've had that as well.
And I did not have a peso. I mean, I had money, but I had too much money. And like a fool, I showed her I had bills that were too big. And then she just looked at me thinking, this guy's rich. He's going to give me a peso.
I would not have shown her anything.
No, I'm an idiot.
No.
I was trying to apply logic to someone who did not speak the same language that I did. And it just really didn't work. All I knew is that she was not leaving without a peso. And fortunately, one of my friends who was on the trip came along and she bailed me out and gave a lady a peso. So we didn't send her off without a peso. But then she went up to Joe and looked at him and said, peso. He said, I did not take your photo.
Yes.
So I was the example for other people to observe. Be careful where you take photos of some people. They may, the reaction may not be what you expect.
They might not, but sometimes with people like that, I almost assume that if they're going to ask, if somebody's sitting there begging, I generally don't take photos of
She wasn't begging. She was not one of those people that I saw. Like when you go into Cuba, there's a square there and there are people like these huge cigars or there's ladies dressed up in traditional dress. You know that they're out there. Same if you go to Las Vegas. There are people who are street performers. Yeah. They're looking for money. And the kind of the rule is if someone makes you stop along the sidewalk long enough because you're interested in what they're doing, you kind of owe them a buck.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you keep on walking, it's like, don't worry about it. Anyways, there are also people out there, I've taken photos, there were kids diving into the water. And it was just a kind of a nice scene.
Yeah.
Nobody's up there running to me, asking me for a peso with that or anything else. So it wasn't that I was hiding from them. It was a nice scene. And it's some of my favorite photos, even if it's not necessarily something I'm going to share all the time.
Yeah.
But now that I think of it, it probably would be good for a social media message one day.
Yes. Use it. You got it.
So we talked about portraits of people that you meet, whether they're going to be candid portraits of them working, or something that you're actually staging, going through. We talked about food. One of the other things that some people, they don't really want to take photos of people, but they want to take photos of the place. And that could be architecture, it could be landscape, but mostly scenery.
Yeah.
You're not really big into scenery.
I'm not into scenery at all.
Why is that?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's just something that's never grabbed me. And it's not to say that there are not photos that other people have taken, which are kind of landscape photos. There are very specific things that I'm drawn to, and I enjoy looking at them. Mm-hmm. I will like them and follow them on social media or admire the photos and stop and take a deeper look. I have no interest in taking photos like that. I don't see the shot. My mind just is not drawn into that genre of photography, I guess.
See, for me, when I'm doing travel photography, that is most of the time what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something where I can find just the right combination of the scene and the time of day and lighting and so forth, where I can make a photo that someone says, I want to go to there.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy. If I take a picture and someone says, oh, wow, I want to go there. Where is that?
Yeah.
Some of them, it's like if I take all these Disney photos, people know where that is.
Yes.
But, I've put out some from some of the islands that I've been to, or when I was out in Las Vegas, they said, I've never seen that before. Where is it? Oh, it's in Las Vegas. Really? Where? And those are the kind of things that I enjoy. So if you can kind of take a shot of whether it's architecture or landscape, to me, that also kind of tells a story of a place, but it's to make it interesting. I don't want to take the same shot that everybody else is taking.
See, I'm like that as well. And architecture, the closest I'll get to that, I love cityscapes. I really do love city streets, especially at night. I like them all lit up. So I guess that's sort of the only sort of arc that I'm taking that might touch onto the architectural side. I also have a thing about abandoned rustic buildings and
I know a lot of people
dilapidated places that you shouldn't be visiting.
I know a lot of people are into that. It's got, urban exploration is kind of a tag that's gone with it. I have absolutely no interest in that at all. I'm like you with, the architecture and landscape, the travel scenes. You don't want to see that. I look at these broken down, dilapidated buildings. I'm thinking, what is the interest there? I have no interest in it at all.
Oh, not just because it's broken down, dilapidated, but some of these things are almost hidden and undiscovered, like they've been forgotten. And you get people who go sneaking around. Now, I will not break the law and go into a place that's where I do not have authorized access. If it's private property, I'm not going to trespass. But for years, I was obsessed with watching videos of people who had kind of snuck into places where they shouldn't be, because you get to virtually go somewhere that you shouldn't be, and there's a thrill to that.
YouTube is like that, and we've watched a few of those videos, particularly for people who go to closed areas at Disney World.
Yes.
And then they put it on YouTube, which is just kind of alerts Disney World, okay, here's someone else we can ban for life.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're into sort of tending towards the grungy side of HDR, those abandoned places are actually pretty good subject for that.
I think that's for if you like the texture and you want to do something gritty.
Oh, yeah.
I get that. It doesn't appeal to me visually. But the same thing is, we've talked about this before with people that shoot old pilings in water. There's a place near here that, there's an old dock that used to be it was part of the heyday of Sanford, Florida in the 1800s, when that river was the way people got in and out of the Central Florida area. You can't walk on the dock anymore. It's just the pilings coming up. I look at that, and I've seen long exposures of that and other pilings, and I just really don't have any interest in it at all.
See, I'm not one for the misty, dreamy look, and if I had to choose between the sort of surreal, misty look like you often get with these sticks and water long type, and that's not the only subject. I don't want to be picking on something, but those sort of long exposures, if I had to pick between those or a little bit overcooked HDR of something sort of rustic or a little bit, abandoned, I'd probably tend towards the texture. I don't care for either extreme, but if I had to lean in one direction, it's probably a bit more to the texture than to the dreamy side.
But you know what? Both of those are viable photography styles, whether you want to do the really long exposure of the places that you go to, or if you want to find something with texture and enhance that.
And there's a great following on both ends of those extremes and anything in between.
So just because it's, some of these things aren't necessarily what I prefer for my photos or what I want to look at, doesn't mean that it isn't a valid photography style. So if that's something that you enjoy, then that might be something that you can take when you're going on travel and still build a body of work, going to different places, employing the same style.
And there's an audience for it.
Exactly. So that's kind of what we want to do, is talk about a few different types of photography styles and then get you to think about how many places can you visit using the same style, and then what kind of body of work can you build.
And if you're into abandoned buildings and you go into naughty places where you shouldn't go, drop us a message and send me a link to your photos.
Send a link to the photos, and particularly if you record it on YouTube, let us see it there.
Because I will follow you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Photo Flunky Show, episode number 53. And as I said at the beginning, show notes are available at williambeem.com/episode 53. You can find a transcript of the show there for free. And please go to photoflunky.com and you can subscribe to the podcast, and it'll be delivered to you directly. Thank you very much. We'll see you here again next week.